Welcome to the Blaize interview. My name is Blaize, and today we have.
I'm Keith Graber, right?
Yeah.
That's my part. That's my line. I'm Keith Graber.
Thank you, Keith. So, how are you doing today?
I'm awesome, actually.
Nice.
Today's nice and I like the weather.
It's cold. It's cloudy.
It's cold. It's still in the 80s, right? But
something like 70s. It's more like the 70s right now.
It's a little overcast, and I don't know. I like it that way. I don't like the sun. I'm not a sun guy.
Yeah, because you're originally from Philly. So, what's
Yeah.
the difference between like Philly and LA? Like, I've never been to Philly. So, what is it like up there?
I don't know. I mean, to be honest, I was driving through NoHo, and I'm like, this has vibes of Philly. You know,
How so?
Well, mostly the dirty alleys and the parking lots. And yeah, it's just like the industrial look. This looked close to where I grew up. It looked like Harrogate, which is near Kensington. That's where I grew up.
Okay. But it's funny because every time I bring any of my friends and my family over, especially like people who I grew up with, they're like, "Damn, Blaize, I didn't know you live in the ghetto now."
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, "What do you mean? It's not that bad." It's like every other business is boarded up
Yeah.
or broken into. Like, it's the ghetto.
That's so weird because that's what LA's like. It's sort of sparsed out. I parked next to like a succulent garden, so but there's also like bars on the windows, so I don't know what to say.
Yeah, that's how it is. I mean, I remember growing up, like, going to my grandma's house. She lived in East LA. I thought it was weird. Like, why does everyone have bars on the windows? And then we would go to Hacienda Heights and La Puente, and you don't see no bars on the windows. It wasn't until I got older I realized, oh, it's because people break in.
Yeah.
That's why. I was like, oh, okay.
Which is the weirdest thing, if you're in a poor neighborhood, why would you break into poor people's houses? That doesn't make any sense to me.
I mean, you take what you get. It's easy targets. It's easier to go to someone's house is broke and break whatever they got versus someone who's got like a fence and they got like a dog and shit.
But like, go where the rich stuff is. That's what.
They've been doing that now. I mean, I remember there was those snatch and grabs, or not just those snatch and grabs, the ding dong robberies.
Yeah.
So what they do is they'll have.
I never heard of that.
Oh, so what they do is they have.
I just lit dog poop, on fire.
So what that is they it's a team thing. So that one person goes to the front door, they ring the doorbell, and they have the owner come and talk to you at the front door. And while they're talking to you, there's 2 other guys or 3 other guys jumping up the back, and they go through the back door, and then they try and steal shit that way. So that way they distract the person while they're robbing them.
That sounds like basically just auditioning for a Darwin Award. You're gonna get your ass shot. You come to my house, you're getting shot.
Yeah.
Good for you.
Keith, one of the first questions I always like to ask every single comic that comes in is like, how'd you get into comedy? Like, where'd you start?
I don't know. When I started, it's probably like a multiple factors that contributed to it, but it was one of those things where it just felt like this is something I was always supposed to do. You know what I mean? There's something that I'm kind of doing anyway, but I'm not channeling into a specific performance. And I was like, well, why don't I do that? And I think one of the biggest contributing factors also was like, I just like to write. Like I never stop writing and coming up with concepts and ideas and writing jokes and writing premises, whatever, all kinds of things that, and I'm like, this has to go somewhere. This can't just be in a shoebox. I'm not Emily Dickinson. We gotta get this released somewhere, somehow, some way. So yeah, when I started comedy, funny story. I started writing. One of my first writing jobs was writing for a thing called Fairy Tale Fridays.
Fairy Tale Fridays.
It was a little thing on YouTube. It was a YouTube channel, and every Friday they would release a fairy tale that was sort of like a parody, almost like something you would see in Family Guy.
Okay.
When they're like, they do a Shakespeare episode, or they do a couple
Star Wars.
Yeah, or they do the Star Wars, something like that. So you do a parody of a fairy tale, and it is narrated by an actor who's just sitting in a chair with a book, in her pajamas. Sort of like, and then they cut to animated slides of the adult-themed parody fairy tale.
Okay.
And so I was writing those scripts. And then COVID happened, and they cut it. They cut it out. They're like, COVID, we can't do this anymore. And I'm like, this is the perfect thing for COVID. There's only one actor on screen.
Yeah.
You're emailing a writer. Yeah, you're emailing an animator. Mm-hmm. This is the thing that people start during COVID. What are you talking about, bro?
Yeah.
You know? So that ended. I was bummed because it was a sweet little gig. It didn't pay a lot, but I loved doing it. And then I swear to God, yesterday they emailed me again and said, "Hey, we're picking it back up." Now,
okay.
Now that COVID's over,
3 years later.
Yeah. Now that we all don't have to be, locked inside or have to be socially distancing, now we can do a show where I email you scripts and you email an animator.
It's like you're jumping through hoops that we don't really... Yeah. I mean, the only people that have to meet in person is the actress, makeup, and then the camera person. I guess those are the only 3, right? Mm-hmm. And maybe 4, a director.
Yeah, I don't know what goes on behind the scenes, but that's my point. Like I don't even talk to anybody except the main. I'm like, yeah, how's this for the script? They're like, it's great.
Okay, I get that.
We'll Venmo you. You know what I mean? Like everything's digital. Why'd this have to stop?
Like you don't even send me a paper check.
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck?
Yeah, you don't have to lick an envelope.
So when did you transfer? When did you first go on stage?
I want to say it was August of... Oh yeah, it was August, I think the 25th of 2019.
Okay, so right before everything happened.
Right before everything happened, okay. Yeah. About 6 months before the pandemic started.
Where did you go? Do you remember where you went?
The Improv.
Oh, okay.
The Improv.
The bucket mic?
No, it was like a showcase.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah, I mean, and it was garbage. It was a garbage set. It was liquid dog shit. Like, if you tried to even pick it up, you know what I mean? You know those ones where you can't even get with the bag? You're just, like, combing the lawn?
Yeah.
That was my first set. But that's fine. That's what we all do, You grow. That's what you're supposed to do.
What was your first set about? Do you remember?
Just whatever random shit I could come up with, that I thought would work.
Have you ever used anything? Do you remember anything that you've used since then? Or is it all just... swept away?
I don't think so. I think one of the dumb jokes that I had was just like a thinker. I was like, I wonder if Wolverine is afraid to masturbate, Because I'd be terrified.
Oh, no.
You get pissed halfway through. I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah, just stupid zingers like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then, so how did your comedy, your comedy performance, how did that improve? How did you get that better? Because you obviously were writing beforehand, so how did you transfer your writing for, the scripts and stuff like that to writing for stage?
Yeah, so that was part of my biggest struggle, actually, was how do I... it's easy to be funny conversationally, but how do you sort of capture all that and project it as a performance, as a solo artist, you're every time you're initiating this conversation with an audience and sort of feeling like you're both conversational and it's almost like impromptu, like you just came up with it, like that's the energy that you want to have. So it's not rehearsed, it's not a recital, but also being able to sort of channel all the things that happen to you, all the things that you think into the context of stand-up comedy jokes that the audience can consume.
Yeah.
That's not too heady without laughs. That's not too, I don't want to always do, zingers and set up punchline and stuff like that. You want to be able to tell a story. You want to be able to say something about yourself, offer your perspective, or say something. I don't know. I want to say something important.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But that's all, easier said than done.
Kind of want to have a comedy with a message.
Yeah. I mean, that's the best comedy to me, is something that, either has a message. I don't want to be too sentimental and too deep all the time.
Yeah.
But also I don't want to be too shallow. And
kind of fix that balance, like Dave Chappelle.
Yeah, a little bit. There should be some sort of commentary on the world, some sort of unique perspective that you offer that people relate to, but you're saying it in a way that sort of sort of is what they always meant, but they didn't know how to say it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's like the best kind of comedy for me. And that's coming from me as like an audience.
Yeah.
You know? That's the comedy that I want to see when I see other people perform it. I want to think like, oh my God, that's so right. It's also a little bit wrong, and it's hilarious the way this guy says it. That's perfect.
Yeah, I get that, because that's kind of like I want to do the same thing, because that's why I feel like my material, I try and say like absurd things to try and point out like, you know, weird shit that we accept in, you know, society and shit. Like, you know, you've heard a lot of my jokes. Like it's a lot of just like, I'm trying to like be far out there, but trying to be far out there to the edge, which is hard. So like try and bring everyone back to like, oh, this is funny, but it's still like out there. So with you always have great energy when you come on stage. You're always fun. You're always having a great time. Like what are some things that you definitely had to work on to like build that craft?
To get that energy, that was also difficult for me, because okay, so I'm going through all this stuff right now where I'm trying to figure out what I got going on upstairs.
Yeah.
I think it's ADHD. A lot of people do. I'm going to different doctors about it, but they're like, well, there's ADHD symptoms, but it could be a personality disorder, and it's all this like nonsense. And I'm like, whatever. The point is, I have soup for brains.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it's like I say, I do write a lot and I conceptualize a lot of things, but it is almost like alphabet soup in there, and I have to always put the letters together to find out what I'm saying, you know. And I will put pen to paper or fingers to keys and get that written down and document it somewhere, but then organizing that and accessing that in order to formulate that into material that I can use, that's always really difficult for me, and it always has been. So I've always approached the stage with like, oh my God, I gotta get my shit together, but like right now, because I'm going up, you know what I mean? And I'm like, in my soupy brain, what was it that I was gonna say, and what were for this bit, what were the 4 tags that I wanted to get, you know, and what were all the things, and I'm like, ugh. So what that causes is a little bit of anxiety, and you get in your own head, and you're like so concerned with that, with what's in here, that you're not doing what's out here. So, you know, you perform enough and you get used to it and you get comfortable on stage that all that stuff that's sort of swimming, or at least for me, all that stuff that was in my brain swimming around is now kind of in the forefront.
Yeah.
And it's not all just letters. Now it's chunks of soupy bits, and I can find them. You know what I mean? You like chunks of soupy bits? Me too.
So you're trying to eat everything I cook.
Yeah. So getting comfortable with not just being on stage, but also with my own brain and how I process that material has now I'm on stage and I'm like, oh, the remembering the things that are in my brain, that part's getting easier. Now I have time to like, you know, sort of address the situation, to be present, to be here, and to engage with the audience and engage just with the stage itself and what I'm doing right now.
Yeah.
And being present. And that is when it kind of clicks. And that's when...
Because it's hard. The first time you go on stage, I was saying, the first time you do something is the worst time you do something. First time you're with a bike, first time you had sex, first time you went on stage, it's the worst time you've ever done it.
Yeah.
And like the more you do it, the better and the easier it is. I mean, like, I always like to refer to like with my work, like the first time I started working and explaining things to people about their bodies and like what they do and like how, like, oh, you know, this is how you're fucking yourself up. So I have to like train them and like rehearse things after a while. And it's kind of like once you rehearse it, you just like goes off.
You know, I work as a chef also, and that's what I tell, like whenever there's a big job where we're making like dumplings or something like that, or gyoza, and you have to form the things, and I'm trying to show somebody, and they're like, oh, I messed that one up. I'm gonna just keep going. You'll get it. And it's like, it's so stupid, but like, don't worry, you'll get it perfect on the last one. Like, you'll ace it, you know?
Yeah.
And you're like, I got it.
Yeah.
Oh, but that's number 100, so we're done now.
Yeah. Well, is it 10,000 hours you got to do?
Yeah.
To practice, to perfect your craft?
They say that, but I think... You know, I don't know. I've heard... obviously, if you do something for 10,000 hours, you'll be good at it. But a lot of people sort of use that as a mental shortcut to like, oh, if I just do this, I'll be a master at this. And that's not quite how it works. You have to be, I think, fully engaged in it. You know, you have to. Another analogy is that I found with like cooking. I was a head chef one time, and I had students come in from who recently graduated from a cooking school, which I will not name. I can name it. I don't give a shit. CIA. They actually got sued, but there's, you know, that's a whole other story. But but the students, they graduated cooking school, you know, and
they should know how to cook.
They should know a lot of stuff, and I had to reteach them knife skills, which are the fundamental basics. That's like day one shit. Mm-hmm. That's the first thing you learn. And I realized like these people were going to the school because they just needed a job. They needed a trade. They wanted to learn that. They're like, give me this information so I can be this thing. And then there's other people like myself who went into cooking because they had a passion or a natural talent for it.
Okay.
And, you know, I wanted, like, my eyes were hungry. I wanted to absorb all of the information that I could find in order to feed that passion, you know? And that's when the 10,000 hours will pay off.
Yeah.
When you're hungry for that information. Passion. And you actually want it. And the more you get, the more you apply to what you want to do, and then you can execute things well. So just doing it for 10,000 hours, it's not a magic spell. It's not going to turn you into something. But being fully immerse yourself into it for 10,000 hours, yes, then you'll be the master.
Yes, and that's true, because if you're just doing something, going through the motions, you're not going to do any better. You have to actually care about what you're doing.
Yeah.
When did you start getting to becoming a chef?
I've been cooking for like 25 years. Okay. I was always like messing with food in the kitchen when I was a kid. You know, I remember one of my first like things that I made. My sister asked for the recipe, and I wouldn't give it to her. I was no. It was just some stupid thing. Like I would make like some sort of oatmeal cake in the microwave. You know, I would do like oatmeal with maple syrup and like an egg and a little butter, and then I would bake it, and it would be like this sort of oatmeal muffiny cake.
How old were you when you did this?
I was probably about 11.
That's actually that's really good for 11.
Yeah, well, you should see the Chop Junior, man. That brings a tear to my cheek.
Chop Junior, what's that?
That's when they have like 9-year-olds who are making like cakes it'll make you cry. You'll be like, maybe I won't try cooking. This 9-year-old's already crushing it. They're making sushi. You know, they're like pit masters.
Yeah, okay.
You know, and it's demoralizing.
Well, it's the same thing. I mean, you see these kids, like the BMX bikers and like these skateboarders. I mean, I think I just saw on ESPN like 2 or 3 weeks ago, this little girl, she did like a 720 on her board. She went up, boom, 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 and came back down.
I hate that.
Yeah, but that's just amazing, man.
Yeah, it is, but I hate kids that are good at stuff. I hate that.
You're like, fuck you, you're so good.
Yeah, like I'm so glad that I don't have kids and I don't have to teach them, like help them with their math homework. I'm like, there's no way. There's no way. This kid already knows more than me.
But the kid didn't come out the womb like that. I'm pretty sure they either their parents or something. They're like, we're cooking with their mom or dad.
That's the thing. Our society is evolving, you know, and we have more earlier exposure to more information.
YouTube.
Yeah, that's how we're gonna evolve. You know, is we get smarter every generation. It doesn't feel like it every time. You know, there's still vaping and fart porn. But we do roughly get smarter every generation. I think. I don't know.
We should. I think every like generation, the next generation. I think since like the 50s, I would say, especially the 60s. We've been aging and we've been getting older. Yeah. My grandparents are in their 80s. I think my parents are going to go into the 90s. So I'm assuming like I'm going to live to 100, given everything that like I had better health, better like nutrition growing up. You know, not only that, but just even better fitness than like my grandparents and my parents especially. So like we as a society, well here in America I should say, not just like as a society because we're speaking globally, but just here in America we're definitely going to live longer and just get stronger.
Yeah.
That's why we kill in the Olympics every year.
Yeah, and some people would disagree with that and say, we can't do things that generations like 100 years ago could do. Like, you can't start your own fire, you can't, go hunting and all the things that like were a little bit more of a survival based tactics that you had to employ. But we don't have to use this because we have technology. We've created a society where we don't need that anymore. Of course, anything can happen, and the preppers are waiting for the doomsday.
Always. Well, I want to go back. So I was 11, and then teenage years, you never really took like cooking seriously.
A little bit, like I worked in fast food and stuff.
That's different though. Working in fast food is just
right.
That's not cooking. That's just like shit's frozen.
Yeah.
You put that shit on a little.
You're just on a processing plant. You're like, what do I do? I remember like I worked at. It was called Roy Rogers back then. I don't know if they still got it, but. Okay. It was basically like an Arby's that was owned by, I think, the Hardee's group. Brand? Yeah. And I remember, like, my job was to, I had buns, and I had to, like, they had this whole setup where you would butter the buns on this wheel with this butter oil. It wasn't butter or oil, it was butter oil. I don't even know what that is. I think it's like ghee. I think it's like an oily ghee.
Okay.
Which is separated butter. They take the dairy solids out of it.
Oh, okay.
And then, but anyway, you're rolling them, and then you're putting them in the toaster, for the sandwiches, and that's like a little conveyor thing. And then at the end, the butter wheel was hot, and it had all this butter oil on it, and it had like a burn on, so you had to clean it. That was my job to clean it at the end of the shift. And they're like, "All right, you got to clean the butter wheel," and I'm like, "How do I clean it?" They're like, "You scrub it with this," and I'm like, "That's the butter oil." They're like, "Yeah, you scrub it with more butter oil." Like somehow, I'm like, "This shit's magic." Is this good for shampoo? Yeah.
Maybe that's why I started balding.
Yeah, I need it now. I could use it.
Okay, that's interesting. But fast food is not real food.
So I got away from fast food. So I actually ended up in my last fast food job was in a steakhouse. It was. Lone Star Steakhouse. Okay. I don't even know if that still exists, but pretty gross. Still fast food. It was basically like working at a Outback or something like that, And then I was like, you know what? I need a change. And I was always the kid, and maybe this was easier back then, and not today's world. I don't see any kids doing this now, but I was always the kid that would like. Pound the pavement,
Pound the pavement?
Pound the pavement is what they called it. You just like walk around and knock on doors and
I've done that.
Find a job. Find a job.
That.
Walk down the street and then keep going until you get a job. And I would just do that whenever I needed a job. I would just like go down an avenue and go into every restaurant and ask them if they
were
hiring.
Yeah.
And so I finally found one. Day of, like I said, and it was. So I went from the steakhouse to it was a macrobiotic vegan cafe.
What the free say that
macrobiotic vegan cafe.
Okay.
So macrobiotics is like longevity. It's about longevity, eating for longevity, which, it can be, people get skeptical about it, but then you see like a lot of old people are into it and you're like, well, maybe they got a point. No, you do look pretty old.
Yeah, but the thing is, everyone wants the fountain of youth.
Yeah.
Everyone wants to extend their life. And so I get that. Was it here in LA or was this?
This was in Philly.
Still in Philly.
Believe it or not, Philly. Macrobiotic Vegan Cafe.
Okay,
and honestly, there's truth to it because, like, I think, all you have to do is drive around, go to Walmart, whatever. I'm not going to talk shit about everyone in this country, but we do have a problem with food and obesity in this country. And a lot of the problem comes from, like, we've gotten to this point where eating is like, we eat for pleasure. We eat for, like, texture. We eat for, like, everything has to be perfect. Everything has to satisfy my craving and my tongue right now. We don't eat thinking like, oh, this is fuel for my body. This is like, this is what I have to eat so that XYZ will happen in my body.
As a whole,
I didn't even notice how it tasted, That's really what, we should be doing,
True.
And so macrobiotics is a little bit like that, eating for a balance inside your body. Not that, I mean, even then, I wasn't even into it. I was like, whatever, you know.
Whatever gets the bills paid.
Yeah, it was like $9 an hour, so I was like, that's enough for me. That's enough that I'll do it, you know. So I was making like cheesesteaks with seitan. Like it was all meat-free stuff, you know, like that's, by the way, seitan, I don't even think that's around anymore, because guess what it is? It's 100% wheat gluten. Like, and all of a sudden, yeah, that became the
evil thing.
Well, Satan is the devil, I guess.
Okay, so you're working as a vegan, so then how did you like? What do you do now? What is your like chef profession now?
So right now, I'm actually a private chef.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, I'm a freelance private chef. So you would hire me to maybe cook
birthday dinner.
Yeah, dinner party for like 12 people in your home. Mm-hmm. You don't want to go to a restaurant because you want to like have a little more intimate environment at home, but you want to have like fine dining that you would find in a restaurant. Yes. So you would get a private chef to come in and cook.
We did that for my dad's 50th birthday.
Mm-hmm.
We had a private chef. It's different. So I know some chefs are different depending on what they do and their specialty. We've had two different types that I had in my life. One was we bought the groceries and we had the groceries there, and then they came and then they prepared it. Mm-hmm. And the second one was they bought everything with them and then they cooked it right there. So what is yours?
Yeah, normally I will provide. I'll shop for the groceries because I don't think I've ever done a gig where somebody's like, "Oh, we got the food. We dare you." You know what I mean? Like,
dare you?
It's chopped. You deal with this bullshit that we came up with. You cook it. I did one gig like that. But it was actually pretty cool. Okay. So it was, I guess, the new version of macrobiotics and stuff would probably be like paleo diets.
Okay.
So there was like very nice guy, but like a paleo bro, you know. In Santa Monica, I believe it was, and he had a party, like a cook. I think it was a birthday, like a cookout. But he's like, it'd be great if I just got a big giant grill, and had a chef come in, and all of my friends came, and it was BYO meat, and you just give the chef the meat, whatever it is, any meat. And he'll slap it on the grill and like season it right and like marinate it and do all those things, and then pop it on a buffet and everyone just eats whatever the meats are, you know. So it was a big paleo meat festival, and that was a good gig. How did
you like prepare for that? Like,
I brought my kit, which is just tongs, a spatula, a knife, and a board, and that's it. And I was just like, bring on the meats.
You didn't season it or?
I did, but they had seasonings there, you know.
Okay.
But yeah, I would do various seasonings, whatever I found in their kitchen that I thought was good, whatever kind of marinades I could whip together, you know. But it was, a lot of meat, most meats, it depends, but most meats that people would bring to a barbecue really just want a little bit of seasoning and like just the right
temperature.
Yeah, get it cooked properly, So, and people destroy food on grills, like at cookouts. People wreck. You ever see somebody where they're grilling chicken and the chicken just has like beige lines on it? It's not even like grilled. It's just like beige lines and it's completely solid. And you're like, this is, first of all, you got to get a grill ripping hot, like disgustingly hot, like hot where like liquid magma,
For chicken?
For anything, you want at least one area where you can get a good sear, a hot ass sear. Actually, the thinner the meat, the hotter and faster you want to cook it. And the thicker the meat, the slower and lower you want to cook it, So, for instance, like a piece of fish, you actually want it really, really hot, but you want to make sure it's nice and lubricated. So you get the sear, put it in a warm area of the grill, let it like finish off, and then when it's just finished, that's when you serve it. Then it's perfect. But yeah, if you don't have a good hot spot on that grill, you're not going to get like the char and the sear. And then if it's just like, then it becomes like, well, this is just a warmer. What are we doing? Like, why, if we're not getting a fire roasted like char on this food. What are we even doing? You know. But also, you don't want it too
burnt.
Yeah, you don't. But you also don't want flames. You don't want a lot of oil. You don't want it dripping with oil because then you'll get flare-ups and flames, and then you'll get just flame soot on your food. That's not good either. You want a lot of heat, preferably cast iron grates, and that's going to basically absorb all the heat and put that right on the food and give it like a nice, you know, char and the good grill lines that look like the chef did it with a Sharpie. You know what I mean? There's like, there you go. That's like what you get in the airplane. That's Sharpie. I'm sure of it. On the airplane.
You taste it, you're like, that's Sharpie, bitch.
Yeah. They smell the cap, you know. See, I told you.
So you smell? Mm-hmm. It's Sharpie, bitch. Okay, so you
This is mostly a chef podcast.
Now it is
cooking, yeah.
Now it's cooking.
So
this is what happens.
Recipe in the bio. Yeah.
Recipe in bio. They're going to teach you how to cook now. Okay, but that's no, because I'm okay at cooking. Like I didn't really start cooking until like I graduated college. Like even in college, because we had the meal passes, I basically just get meals from college, like all the college, and then finally when I moved out here in LA. Me and my girlfriend were living together, and we started cooking together. And I would mainly just get my recipes from Instagram. Like even now, I go. There's a lot. There's like the pictures, videos, and tutorials. Like the whole thing is like pretty amazing.
That's the new way for getting recipes. That pops up in my feed all the time.
Yeah, I actually hate it because I remember like the biggest discouraging thing when I first started to learn how to cook is having to like Google stuff and like researching like. Because the worst part about it is these fucking food bloggers. Like, they give you their life story. They're like, oh, it took me 3 hours to get to the closest Whole Food in Kansas. And, you know, they tell us, like, you know, this recipe reminds me of this time with my aunt, and she recently passed. And, like, it's connecting me with her. It's like, bitch, I have to scroll down 50 fucking pages to get to the fucking recipes. Just
you want a cupcake recipe, and it's like, well, in 1066, the Saxons invaded. What the hell? You're going too far back. Yeah. This is too far back.
Yeah, it's like, so the pastry originates from, like, don't care. Just give me ingredients. What do I need to buy? Descriptions, instructions. Heated at what degree? 375? 375.
I honestly, even a straightforward recipe is tricky for me. I don't like... I maybe I have dyslexia too. I'm not a good reader, and it's tough when the hardest actual thing that you can make me do is to give me a recipe and say make this. If you say anything, pretty much what I do is I do custom dishes. Whatever somebody requests, I'll make it. You know, and if they say, oh, we'll give us suggestions, I can do that as well. But pretty much I customize it for what this client likes or you know, there's dietary restrictions, anything like that. And what I'll do is if they say, oh, make this thing, and I've never made it before, I'll just research it. But when I'm researching it, I'm not memorizing the amounts of things necessarily. Sometimes you have to, but what I'm doing is understanding the way that this is made, like understanding the process. And I've been doing this so long that like, okay, I get it. This recipe is like this recipe, but except they're using this kind of herb instead of that. You know, I can sort of fundamentally understand how that's created, and that's what I'll do is I'll create it my way, you know, with my kind of style. But like if somebody's like, no, make this exact recipe, and it's usually like a Rachel Ray thing or something dumb, you know, and it's just like a teaspoon of this, and I'm like, and then a teaspoon, you know, and I'm like this, and like that'll take twice as long as if I just knew what I was making and making my own thing, you know, and even when I write recipes, I write them differently. I don't like the way recipes are written because they'll give you the list of all the ingredients, right? So it'll be whatever, 1 cup of sugar, 1 tablespoon of baking powder, and then you scroll down. Well, I'm saying scroll because we don't have books anymore. That doesn't exist. But you scroll down, and then it's like add the sugar and half of the baking powder, you know, and you're like, wait, let me scroll back up. How much sugar was it? Okay, it was 1. Okay, and half. Okay, and I'm like, why would you not just write those increments in the description? You know, that's what I do is when I write a recipe, I write step by step, and the increments are in the description of what you do. Put 1 cup with 1 tablespoon, stir. Put this with that amount, stir, mix, whatever it is. Just so it's like, I mean, I make little cards with recipes on it for when I do cooking classes, and I hand them out. If there's, usually it's like if I'm making cookies or something, I'm like, here's a quick recipe, like a business card recipe. Yeah. And it's so easy to follow. It's just like bing, bang, boom. That's how my brain works. I don't like reading the life story, and I don't like having this, like, having to refer back to another page for things. I feel like that's idiotic. I feel like it's crazy.
It takes too much time.
Yeah.
I mean, it wastes effort. Like, for me, like, it does take, like I said, the Instagram, because it's like right there in the paragraph, you can just take a screenshot of it, and it's like, okay, it's not too much. Because they actually, I will say, the Instagram ones are better at condensing it versus like the fucking life stories and like how some people write them. What is your signature dish? What is your like favorite thing or your best thing? What is your...
I don't know. Everyone wants me to have one. Everyone asks me like, what's my favorite thing to make? So, okay. I think I'm a jaded chef. I think I've been doing it too long. And when people ask me, like, what's your favorite thing to make? And I'm like, it's a bowl of cereal. It's a two-step process.
You fuck.
I can eat it with one hand if I want. I could have the remote in the other hand.
Actually, you don't even need... You don't need hands.
It's perfect,
just slurp it down.
I do like... My favorite foods to eat are probably sushi and probably pizza. Okay. But good pizza...
What's good pizza?
Good pizza is anything like in a wood-fired oven,
okay.
With like really good quality dough and ingredients. I hate the phrase that people say about like, there's no, what is it? There's no such thing as bad pizza, or
there is.
It's bad, like bad pizza's like bad sex. Like there's no such thing, or what? I'm like,
no, there is.
I've had bad pizza and I've had worse sex. So no to both. Thank you. I would rather sit home and not have pizza or sex, and just like do my own thing. Yeah. You have to have good quality ingredients, and you have to make the dough a certain way, and it's whatever. Like I'll eat a frozen pizza every once in a while if I'm hungry and I'm like desperate. And again, like you can't always be, you can't be a slave to your own taste buds. You can't always be trying to like satisfy your taste buds. Not that eating a frozen pizza is the concession you make to be healthier, but still.
All right, so wood fire, so like the all those wood fire places. I mean, isn't Blaize Pizza also? They got.
I don't know. I haven't been to Blaize. Where's that at?
It's a franchise. It's like one of those ones. It's honestly, it kind of reminds me of kind of like a Subway. They start off, they make the dough, and they say, what dough you want, and you make the dough, and then what type of sauce you want, they put the sauce in it, and then they pass it down to the next person, and it's what toppings do you want?
Yeah, I've been to places like that, yeah. I mean, if you like it, you like it. If it's, I can't really criticize anyone for just liking simple things. And I mean, not that even high quality pizza isn't that complicated. It's just
the quality of the ingredients.
Sometimes you're using better ingredients. They're using the 00 flour for the dough. They're using like fresh mozzarella as opposed to the pre-packaged shredded stuff. Whatever.
What are the things you hate cooking?
Things I hate cooking.
What don't you, or what things you don't like to eat? What are things you don't like?
You know what I hate making is a lasagna.
Oh.
A lasagna is such a pain in the ass. It's because it's like it's a prep, cook, cook. You know what I mean? It's like you prep ingredients, you cook them off, you build the lasagna, and you cook that off.
Oh.
And it's not even like, I think a lasagna is actually better the next day when all the ingredients sort of solidify. Yeah, and the pasta absorbs the sauce, and that's when you get those like. You've ever had a fresh lasagna hot out of the oven, and then you cut a piece and it just slips apart? It's just like floppy. The next day, that's when that layer all cakes together and it's like perfect. That's the beauty of a lasagna is the layering. Is all that layering in one bite. That's what's good about it. But essentially, we're talking like it's pasta with pasta ingredients, and I'm like, oh, you want pasta with pasta ingredients? They're like, no, I want layered pasta, and then you got to bake it, And like, I'm not going to eat pasta with pasta ingredients. That's for animals. I want you to make this special layered thing. Oh, ravioli too.
Ravioli.
That's another one. I'm like,
isn't that just dumplings? It's just Italian dumplings.
Yeah, but I mean, it's like the same thing. It's pasta with pasta ingredients, and I'm like, what? So no to pasta ingredients, but yes to me rolling these little fucking pillows for 6 hours, right? Yes to that, but not the other one. Fuck.
Okay.
It's all tomorrow's poop. So why are we caring that much?
Okay, that's kind of funny. That's interesting. Yeah, 'cause it's the extra steps that you got to go to it. So it's mainly the Italians you have a problem with.
Maybe I'm a lazy chef.
So you like the easy, just like, all right, put the grill on there.
I do enjoy a good ravioli. Like, I like the craft, but man, sometimes it's just.
Do you like making like dumplings and egg rolls and stuff like that?
I do actually. I like a lot of Asian food.
Asian food, okay.
Yeah.
What was the first like type of foods that you were like went out of your way to learn how to cook? Besides like the fast food and the steakhouse. Like...
Well, I've always tried to. I mean, they say cook, but like I've always tried to make sushi, to the best of my ability, and that's something that people train for like, years for. People train for sushi the amount of time that I've been in general a chef, and then they'd just be okay. It probably takes like 25 to 30 years to be like really good at sushi.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm just talking out the side of my neck. I don't know if that number's accurate or not.
I used to think that sous chefs were actually chefs that just did sushi.
Yeah.
Sous chefs. I thought that was because I'm a kid. Like, the sous chef. He's a sous chef. Oh, I guess he does sushi all day.
It's sort of like the second, your second in command. Yeah, your sous chef. And I by the way, everyone keeps telling me to watch The Bear. And I'm like, you don't know. And they're like, in the same breath, they're like, yeah, it's so stressful for those chefs. I'm like, why the fuck you want me to watch it?
Yeah. It's reliving trauma.
Yeah, it's like PTSD. I don't want to do that,
I've never really been into those cooking shows like Gordon Ramsay and all that.
No, Gordon Ramsay's a dick.
Yeah. What about the is it cake or is it not? That one's kind of interesting.
Yeah, aren't there multiple shows doing that?
There are multiple shows doing that. There's multiple types, what I mean? There's everything, there's like 4 different things. Hollywood's just lazy like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
The is it cake stuff is kind of mind-blowing. It's kind
cool.
of, it's a little creepy. I'm still like, is this AI? Like, this can't be actual cake. Like, AI might take over that industry. Like, so if you're a is it cake baker, because AI can make a video where we'll turn into cake, and I'll like just, I'll cut you open, you cut me open. You're like, oh, he was actually cake. I wasn't though.
Yeah, he's bleeding. I'm dead.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's actually the origin story of Jason Voorhees. He just thought they were cake, But
stupid.
I know, it's so stupid.
No, okay. So you do you like pastries? Do you do pastries or do you?
I do a little bit. I would say I'm not as I'm not as good with like the pastry work. It's a little bit more refined.
Tedious or?
It is, but it's also, you have to have like a very gentle touch with it. It's a little bit like, almost doing sushi. Like you have to have this refinement and focus on just that craft to be exceptional at it. And I'm just average at it. I'll admit it. I make a lot of stuff. I'm like the jack of all foods, basically, as a chef. And I can make almost anything, but not all of it is, 100%.
It's still edible.
Yeah. No, but I do really good desserts. I like desserts that are more like fun and tasty and a little bit more. I'm more into like the comfort food type of desserts as opposed to the high end like pastry art type of desserts.
Oh, like an ice cream and
yeah, like what
sundae,
like a galette.
A galette.
A galette. A galette is just like a rustic pie, So you make a pie crust, you sort of roll it out, and you put a bunch of fillings in the middle of it, and you fold over the edges of the crust to sort of make like this rustic wrap of a pie with the center sort of exposed, and you bake that. Okay. It's pretty good, but I like a more rustic sort of comfort food approach to that. I had a really good recipe I tried recently was a broken phyllo cake.
Broken phyllo cake.
So, which basically is great because all phyllo is fucking broken. Like, I don't know if you ever worked with phyllo dough.
No.
But you open that package, and it's just like, this is great. It comes pre-ruined. I don't have to worry. I don't have to worry about doing it myself. But anyway, so you take phyllo that's not perfect, and you can sort of cut it up into strips, and then you toast that in the oven, and then you make a sort of sponge cake with an orange and spice syrup, and you put that on. You pour that on the cake, and it's beautiful. It's like it has this great texture. It's got a lot of flavor. Mm-hmm. That's the kind of thing I like. Another dessert with phyllo is I hope I'm saying this right. Galactoborico. Galactoborico. It's Greek, and it's sort of like a semolina custard wrapped inside phyllo, and then you put you bake that, and then there's a little syrup at the end. That's I don't know. That's the kind of dessert I like.
Yeah.
A little bit more rustic and comforty.
Yeah. Okay, that's cool. Yeah. Interesting. I never heard these. The one thing I will say is I do hate the French.
Yeah.
Because their fucking words are too.
Yeah.
I hate them.
The French hate letters.
Yeah.
Like they're so.
Spell the word beige.
They're such letter wasters. What are you doing? Like if they got charged by the letter, that would be a completely different language.
Well, that's the telegram. The telegram actually changed the American language because people would shorten things up. So because companies would charge per letter.
Yeah.
So they would shorten words and condense things and make. So that was the first type of like texting, like BRB.
Yeah. Maybe that's where we got all correct. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay comes from a misspelling of the term all correct, like a purposeful misspelling. All with an O and correct with a K. I don't know why they thought that was cute back in the 1800s, but they did that, and then they shortened it to okay. So
okay.
And then we won't let it go. We will not let that one go.
Well, okay is such a good word though. Like,
yeah.
How you feeling? Okay. How was this place? Okay. You know what I mean?
Okay
okay is a very like broad stroke of a word.
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of like the same way. Like I like the word bitch. Like I use it more as like an adjective than I use it as a noun or a verb. Like fucking bitch. You know what I mean? Or like bitch. Kind of like okay.
Yeah. I use it as a verb. I like to bitch. I'm a bitcher.
I love bitching.
Yeah.
I bitch to bitch. You know what I mean?
I'm down with bitchery.
My mom was like, "Why, Blaize? Why are you bitching all the time?" I was like, "Mama, you done both taught me how to bitch. Y'all done bitching at me my whole life." She's like, "Well, you don't have to do it now."
Bitch.
Yeah, pretty much. But no, I want to go back. So when did you move from Philly to Los Angeles?
Well, I moved from Philly to New Zealand.
What the fuck?
And lived there for like 3 years.
Why?
And then moved from New Zealand to Los Angeles.
Why New Zealand?
I always wanted to travel and get out of Philly, and that's like almost the furthest polar opposite of Philly.
I mean, you guys are in different hemispheres. You guys have different like seasons.
Yeah, it's nearly like I want to say like 1,000 miles away from the exact polar opposite of Philadelphia on the globe, which apparently doesn't exist. It's all flat, but that's fine. Yeah.
No, okay. So what did you do in New Zealand? You were just there being a chef? Or?
Yeah, I was a chef. I worked at a theater that had like a lot of different plays and ballets and opera performances from different countries. And, so we were always making different cuisine to sort of like match that country, which now I'm like, why would you do that? Just serve them New Zealand. They're in New Zealand. Why the hell they want, you know what I mean? Like
a little bit of racism.
Yeah. Like why would they want the half-assed version of the thing they could eat at home? It doesn't.
For like free.
Yeah. But that's what we do, so if there was if there's a Russian ballet, we would be cooking Russian food.
What is Russian food?
You know what? There's a lot of beets. It's mostly beets. It's a beet-based diet. No, but like there's borscht and stroganoff, and there's probably a lot of other recipes that I should research and do a Russian dinner for somebody. Not as popular these days.
No, not many Russian oligarchs in America.
Yeah, but it was fun. I was a sous chef at that place in New Zealand, and I did learn a lot. And I also was I did a lot. I've always been an odd job guy. I've always done a lot of odd jobs, and there I did. I did some extra work, and I was in Lord of the Rings too. So.
Oh fuck, that's cool.
Just as an extra, just like a background guy.
Can you see yourself? Do you put yourself out?
I can. I posted on my Instagram page where you can find me, because a lot of you'd be surprised, but in North Hollywood there's a lot of Lord of the Rings nerds.
Yep.
They love it, and I like Lord of the Rings. I wouldn't say I'm any one specific nerd. I'm just a general nerd.
Okay.
But I was in Lord of the Rings, and
cool.
You can see my spot. I was like. The scene in the Two Towers when they get to Mordor, but they kind of fall down the hill.
Oh, okay.
And they're like in the rocks, and they're like, and then the Easterlings are marching into the gates, and then two of them are like, "What's that sound? Let's go check it out." And they walk over, and then they pull that blanket over them.
Yeah.
I was one of those Easterlings that was looking for and they sort of scratched their head like stormtroopers, like, huh? I guess it was nothing, and then they turn around and
you did the Leo.
Yeah. And it was funny because they did a pickup shot for that on the lot. The principal was already all shot, but they did a pickup shot because they're like, I don't think we got enough here to show what happens when these guys pull that weird invisibility blanket over them. And because I never even knew in the book what it actually is supposed to be. Does it make you invisible, or does it make you look like a different object? Those are completely different things. And a lot of times in sci-fi and fantasy, they don't really... I don't know. I'm a technical nerd. I'm like, how does it work? I'm like, I watch how it's made at night to go to sleep.
That's pretty cool though. The how it's made, those are pretty cool.
But I want how it's made, but like Star Wars, how it's made. And the lightsaber goes through the assembly line. And they're putting in the crystals. I want to see that. Like, that's where I'm at, and that's where a lot of nerds will call you out. They're like, well, actually, what's supposed to happen is.
I hate that. That.
But you do need to make that decision in order to film that shot.
Yes.
Because they're like, are we looking at two guys who are now invisible, so there's a weird hole in the ground that's shaped like someone's butt because they're covered, their legs are covered or whatever, or is it two guys that look like a rock because they're wearing a like a camouflage blanket? Is it an invisibility blanket, or is it a chameleon camouflage blanket? And so it was supposed to be a camouflage blanket. And so they got the guys, they buried them in the dirt, and they put the blanket over them. And it looked like two guys under a blanket. And, this is me on set. Like, it could have not been because of me, but I'm pretty sure it was because of me. But I'm just some extra on set, like in my costume, in my armor, it's plastic armor. It's a little like rubbery. I don't know what the actual material is. And I'm just waiting, and they're all like trying to set it up, and they're like scooping dirt on the blanket, and I'm like, you need to get some chicken wire. Like I did, I just kind of like said it out loud and to see if anyone heard me, and then we're waiting another 10 minutes, and they're not getting it right, and then finally one of the assistants comes out with like chicken wire, and they mold it over the two guys, and then throw the blanket over, and it looked just like a rock because of the sharp edges of the chicken wire. And then they threw a little bit of dirt on it. They're like, it looks like a rock, And then we were like, great. But that one I think should have been CGI'd, you know what I mean? Like, no one wants a blanket rock, but whatever. The scene worked, and I feel like I was uncredited as a prop master. As well as Easterling number 2.
Specifically number 2. You see him in the credits.
Yeah.
Okay, that's cool. So did that. So you were just doing odd jobs and being a sous chef in New Zealand just because you just wanted to do it.
Yeah, I like New Zealand. I lived in Wellington for like 2 years, and I lived in Nelson for a year.
And it's a small island, right? Like, it's not that big.
Well, it's 2 islands, technically 3. I don't think Stewart Island counts as the third officially. I think that's part of the southern island. But
Mm.
they have two main islands, north and south, and they sort of like intersect a little bit like this. So the northern tip of the South Island is actually further north than the southern tip of the North Island. I don't know why I'm adding that detail like it matters, like because all the technical nerds out there know.
Well, actually,
what happens is if you're leaving the northern tip of the southern island, you're actually traveling south to get to the southern tip of the northern island.
Who cares? Who cares? I hate to have this thing where I always like say is I'm a fan of things, but doesn't mean I have to know everything to be like.
Yeah.
I'm a Chargers fan, right?
Uh-huh.
Who was the starting quarterback for the 1973 roster? Who was the starting fullback for the 87 roster? I'm like, does that matter? Hey, we haven't won a Super Bowl ever. We've only been to one. Like, hopefully Justin Herbert can take
I'm the same. Yeah. I'm a Eagles fan, and I don't remember
okay.
all the stats. Yeah, I know. Second best. Like, that's the worst thing in the world. But same thing, and I think that happens the most in baseball. And I think it's because it's so boring. The stats are actually interesting at that point. You know?
For me, like, I can't watch baseball on TV. I can only watch baseball in the stands because then you're there with the people and you're talking shit. You know what I mean? You're like, you suck, boo. Like I love to heckle. But I'm not gonna Boston heckle.
Yeah, I mean it's sort of like going to a baseball game is like going to like a work picnic or something. Like you can have a little bit of fun, and it's fun just to sort of be there and like and eat food, you know. But like. You would never watch a work picnic on TV. And I feel like it's exactly as exciting as
a work picnic.
Yeah, as a work picnic.
I feel that. So like going back, so you went to New Zealand. You were on the North or South Island?
Both.
Okay, so
Wellington's on the north, but that's the thing. They're across the
bay, I guess, or
the
Strait.
The Strait. It's the Cook Strait. Yeah, I believe it's the Cook Strait.
After James Cook.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. From each other. So Nelson's like a cool kind of small, almost hippie town, and Wellington's actually their capital and sort of like their
main city.
Yeah, like the capital, not only their political capital, but also like the art capital and stuff. So
what was it
like their business capital a little bit.
Did it take some time getting used to like being in the southern hemisphere versus the northern hemisphere? So like how different is that?
Just reversing the seasons was just it, really. Other than that, everything was cool, you know.
Toilets flushed the other way?
I went jet skiing for Christmas. Like, that was kind of cool.
That's cool.
You know, I'm always sitting in the opposite direction to check the toilet when it's flushing, but no, I'm kidding. I don't flush while I'm sitting on it. That would be weird and wet. I didn't track the toilets, but I don't think that... I think they debunked that. I think probably either Mythbusters or Bill Nye or Neil deGrasse Tyson has debunked the Coriolis effect actually affecting your toilet water. So
I don't even know. I just know that's one of those things. I was like, toilet's flushing the other way. I was like, I don't even notice.
I think somebody came up with it. See, that's the thing about like the 80s and 90s, like viral myths, urban myths, and viral like concepts were like something your friend's older brother would tell you in the basement. You know what I mean? When you were over his house, he's like rolling joints, and he's like, "Yeah, did you know?" And you're like, "Okay," you know, and like that's where we got that. Who was it? Marilyn Manson was actually in the Wonder Years. I remember that one. And there's some other like.
There's a lot of them.
Urban legends.
There's a lot of urban legends, but just. Most of them fake. Most of them fake.
They were all bullshit.
Yeah, you just wanted to make someone sound smart.
Yeah.
I was in Tennessee, and I was there after they passed a law, whereas if you're in the left lane and someone's trying to go past you, don't matter how fast you're going, move over.
Yeah.
And their dad, because they were driving from the airport to their house, their dad said, "Yeah, they did that because so many people are shooting people on the freeways."
Yeah. Well,
I'm like, I don't know if that's false, but at the same time, seems plausible.
It seems plausible, and first of all, don't shoot anybody on the freeway. But I have thought about it, and if you're, because people do this all the time. They're like, "Oh, well, I was going 10 over the speed limit. I don't know why." Doesn't matter if someone's going 11 over the speed limit. You got to get the fuck out of the way. You don't have to go faster, but you do got to get the fuck out of the way. That's not. I'm not even talking about freeways. I'm talking about life,
streets,
life, everything. You can go at your own speed, but do not be an obstruction to anyone else. I think that's just a good motto to have in general.
How would someone be an obstruction to your life? Like how so?
Holding other people back, being in their fucking way, like not being aware of your surroundings, not being conscientious of others. You know, people got shit to do. You should drive like the person behind you has shit to do. Because they do.
Yeah.
And it's probably me, and I got shit to do.
Yeah, literally. He's got to find a toilet.
Get out of my fucking way. Yeah.
That's one of the jokes. Whenever I see someone like weaving in and out of traffic, I was like, they got to take a shit. Yeah. Because why else you weaving in and out? I was like, I got to fucking go.
Yeah. Well, the thing is also if somebody's driving really fast and weaving in and out of traffic and they seem like an unsafe driver, extra fucking reason to get the fuck out of their way and be not near them whatsoever.
I ain't gonna lie, I'm a dick. So whenever I see that person weaving in and out of traffic, I was like, all right. Yeah. And I'll purposely mark it so then that way I'm going just at the right speed that they can't go behind me, they can't go in front of me, and they have to go they have to slow down and go all the way around me.
I agree. You're a dick.
I know. I'm a dick. I'm a dick. I was like, I will purposely, because if I ain't got nowhere to be, like, if I'm going to work and I was like, I want to be a dick right now. So I see that person in my rearview mirror. I was like, all right.
He's a big dick.
Yeah, big old dick.
See, I'm like that person that's driving really fast. I'm like, they're my favorite because I'll never fucking see them again. You know what I mean? The person it's usually those goddamn Access vans. They're the slow. If you see one, avoid it at all costs. One time recently, I got surrounded by like a gang of Access vans. I was like, what the hell? Are you guys taking me?
Yeah.
Because it's for like, usually for people with disabilities or like
elderly.
Old people that can't get out of the house. And they're like, I need to go somewhere. And I'm like, they're coming for me, dude. I'm 47. It's not that bad.
I know. Only 47.
Only 47.
Okay, all right. So I'm going to go back. So it was New Zealand. When you were there, what years were you there for?
I was probably there from like 98 to 2001.
Okay.
Yeah.
So big cell phone, like everyone having a cell phone.
Yeah, I actually had a cell phone. My earliest cell phone was in 97. I had the Ericsson with like the little plastic antenna that you pull out.
That. Yeah.
It wasn't a flip, it was a brick.
Yeah.
And it was fucking worthless because like everyone wanted to be cool and have that cell phone, but then they didn't have like enough towers or anything at that point.
Oh, yeah.
You know? So it's just like you still had to go somewhere specific to use it. You know what I mean? It was dumb.
Even before, because that was before like calls before 9 p.m. or your calls after 9 p.m. are free.
Oh yeah.
Weekend calls are free. You're charged per minute.
Dude, it was like it was like the like room service menu. They were just overcharging for they're breaking down every little thing, you know. Add avocado, that's $2, you know. It was the texts were you had to pay per text. I remember like people being like very efficient with texting because of how much they had to pay for it.
Yeah.
And now you get that asshole friend that's like uses send as punctuation, you know. Okay, send. I'll be there in 5. Send. You want anything? Send. Bump, send. And you're like, my phone is blowing up in my pocket and vibrating.
You got like 7 texts, and it's like, you could have just sent this in one fucking text, bro.
Yeah, this could have just been one text.
Yeah.
But whatever.
I get that. So you were there, okay, and then you came back. And then, so when you came back, that's when in 2001 you moved to LA. So why did you move to LA?
LA's the first stop when you fly, from anywhere in the Pacific. It's usually like where you come in. And I came out here and spent some time, and I met friends from Philly out here. Spent some time out here, and then I made friends here. And then my Philly friends were like, all right, we're going back to Philly. And I'm like, I'm good here. I'll just, spend some time here. And then, made friends, met my wife, and ended up just staying here.
Okay.
So, it's cool.
Yeah. All right. So, it's like you went into writing after. How did you get into writing?
I always felt like I had something to sort of express, you know, and I always have ideas and whatever. Like I said, it's a constant flow upstairs. So it just it started to overflow. And, you know, I'm still not as into writing as I'd like to be. I dabbled in a lot of things, and then I go with what seems like it's paying off the most, because I feel like that's what I am excelling at the most. And stand-up just sort of started to be like that vessel for me. So I was like, let me concentrate all my firepower as much as possible on stand-up, even though stand-up is no easy game, as you know, and there are some nights where you're like, yeah,
what the fuck am I doing?
Maybe next time, pal. Yeah. So that's what I did. I sort of like channeled all my writing, you know, but I was working on screenplays. I was working on show concepts.
Were you working, or were you a writer? Were you like going to like places,
just
scripts,
like
or...
freelance? I had a writing partner for a while, and we were kind of working on shows and stuff like that. And it, you know, the pandemic made stuff sort of fizzle out a little bit.
Yeah.
And
so when did you start getting into writing then? What year?
Around the same time as stand-up.
So
yeah,
around 2018, 2019? That was all...
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
But yeah, the pandemic sort of changed things. And believe it or not, there were more opportunities for, like, that actually gave me opportunities for stand-up, you know, because all the Zoom comedy came up, which, let me just say this, Zoom comedy sucks.
Everyone says that.
Everyone
says that.
It sucks so much. But Zoom comedy came out, and every comedian who was performing on stage hated Zoom comedy and refused to do it. But there was a niche for it. It did fill a hole. And there was some demand for it. And I was like, filling holes? That's my job. I'll do it. You know. So I started doing Zoom comedy, and I'm like, look, it sucks for performance. There's no connection with a real audience.
Yeah.
But it was great for writing, because I was writing constantly, and I was having like, so we started the Zoom show where we would have multiple mics a week, and probably did like 2 shows a month at the peak of it. And this was for performers that just wanted to like stay fresh and keep going, and not take that, because we didn't know how long. You know, it was like, it's going to be a week, and then it's going to be 2 weeks, and then it's going to be a month, and then it's going to be...
Yeah.
Ended up being like, roughly, depending on where you want to put the bookends, about 1.5 years of bullshit, you know, of solid bullshit.
Yeah, it's still been going on.
Yeah, so I wasn't going to sit on my hands and wait till clubs open.
Yeah.
You know, I was like, I got to do something. I don't care what it is, you know. And so, that helped me stay fresh. And... You know, you're doing a Zoom show, it's a lot of your friends, and people watch the shows, and you want to stay fresh. So I was writing a new 6-minute set each time I did that show.
Yeah.
I was writing new set almost every time I did a mic, because I just wanted to, like...
Be fresh.
But also keep the growth going, you know, keep the internal growth going. There's a lot of jokes that you keep, and there's a lot of jokes that you grow out of, and that you replace as soon as you have a new joke. You know, that's better. That you're constantly upgrading jokes. You're collecting, you know, it's like furnishing your apartment. Like, I don't really...
Yeah, you don't... It starts out barren. Like, we didn't have all these records here in the beginning, so now we got all these records here.
But I've never gone on a shopping spree to, like, to furnish my house, you know? It was always, like, one thing, and then another thing, and then, I found this thing, and it's better than this old thing that fulfills that purpose. So that's going in the yard sale. That's how the joke progression goes. That's how your writing progression goes. Well, that's how mine goes.
Yeah.
So, that was great for me. I mean, I hated being in the Zoom.
What about the
Square,
park ones? Did you ever do like one of those park ones?
They felt worse.
What? I actually like the park ones better than the Zoom, because the park ones, at least you have people there. Even though it was like There's the Pan Pacific Park one that was really good.
Yeah.
Everyone would space out. There wouldn't be at first it wasn't a mic,
Yeah.
and people would just like go there and just yell the jokes.
Yeah,
and
no.
then eventually there was a mic, and then they would clean the mic off.
Yeah, you know what, I like. Okay, so I by the way, I know Carol ran that. I love Carol.
Mm-hmm.
I never did that. I felt like, okay, for some reason, I don't know if it's me, but I feel like comedy's like butt stuff. Like, it's just weird during the day. I don't know why. It's weird when sunlight touches it. You know, it's like I can hear it sizzle on my skin. I'm like, nobody wants to be in the sunshine slinging jokes. Nobody wants to be like seeing sweaty faces while you're telling jokes. It's just always... That's why I hate this daylight savings time bullshit, you know, because like comedy shows are always starting... when there's sunshine, it takes something off of it. Comedy is like, it's something that can't... It has to exist under the right conditions, like a good stand-up performance, you know. It's in the right conditions. And I always feel like it's weird in the daytime. It can be weird with an open air, you know, like if it's outside, that can affect it.
Helicopters, you know.
I mean, even if you go to a club and they're bitching about like, oh, no one's sitting up front, you know, that affects it. All this, there's a dynamic. Yeah. There's an energy shift when things are... I did a show recently, it was my show, and the front row was full except for like, there was like 3 or 4 seats on the left side, and you could just feel the coldness there. You could feel that gap.
Yeah.
I was trying not to focus on it. You know, I'm like playing for the lights, you know, I'm like looking in the back of the room, but I could still feel it. It was there, you know. There's a whole energy dynamic with a venue and with a room that I mean, not that I'm against, like, I love a challenge. Yeah. You know, I do almost any bar gig. I don't care.
Those are fun.
When they're wild and people are shouting, and a lot of comedians don't like those, and I'm like, this is the best workout you can get. Yeah. If you can get a bunch of rowdy assholes playing pool or watching the Dodgers game in a bar to stop and listen to you and pay attention because what you have to say is that interesting, you did it.
And you
did
win
comedy.
them over, and they love you. They'll cheer, they'll fucking cry, they'll do anything you want them to.
And even if you can't, even if they're shouting at the top of their lungs and you're still giving a performance that you're happy with, you did that. You did, you know, like, it's a good challenge to actually play with. And I've done some gigs where it was a good show, but like you could hear rowdiness from another room, from another part of the bar. Yeah. And there were some comedians that got thrown off by that. And I fucking, like, I shouted, like, I was like playing to them. I didn't care, you know, played right through it. And somebody even like noticed that and was like, you've done a lot of bar gigs, haven't you? I'm like, I feel like I've done too many bar gigs, but I still do them again.
They're fun. What are some venues you don't like to go to? Like, for me, one venue I'll never perform at again until the owner leaves is Chateau.
The Chateau is gross. Yeah,
fuck Chateau. Fuck Felix.
Chateau's done me dirty a bunch of times. You know what? Here's the thing about the venue. There's a lot of like shitty owners and shitty people involved with venues, but I can tell you the worst one that I'll never go back to. But it's a bar gig, Liquid Zoo. It's a human zoo, is what it is.
It's very, very rowdy, I've heard.
Yeah, Liquid Zoo is actually what the name refers to is all of the different chemicals that people dump into your drink when you get roofied there. That's what Liquid Zoo. It's you're drinking a liquid zoo. It's like multiple, all these things swimming around, and I'm like, I don't mind getting roofied. Just tell me the dosage so I know like how to get, you know, do I got to call an Uber or or an ambulance? Like, just tell me which one, you know.
Okay. I will say this, like, I used to always compare them as like the Pasadena comedy and the Hollywood comedy. Did you ever go to the Pasadena one?
Yeah.
So I would just say the Hollywood comedy, that's like the writer's room. That's what everyone has their arms crossed. Everyone's only caring about their shit. Versus Pasadena, before it closed down, it was community college. Yeah. You know what I mean? It was very much like everyone comes in, like, how you doing? But oh, that's great. Good job.
I seen some great shows at the Pasadena Comedy.
I was sad that it closed.
That was actually not a bad venue. Not a bad venue. I've seen, there was, you know, every once in a while there's a moment in comedy where you just like have, you know, an entire room hanging on your every word or whatever, you know, and it's like there's tension and it's packed and they're listening and it's focused, you know, and there's like, and then you get that big laugh. I've seen that moment in the Pasadena comedy, and it's crazy because like this is a black box. It wasn't even black. This is a white box. It was like white drywall. This will be a cell phone store when this thing closes down. How is this magic happening in this room?
It was so beautiful.
And it did. Yeah, it was a good room. The Hollywood comedy is also can be good, but very hot in there. Like their AC, they need to like kick up the AC a little bit.
That's been one of the complaints about it.
Yeah.
I will say like fourth wall. I love fourth wall, but the NoHo one, especially for all you women, you go to the restroom somewhere else before you go to the NoHo fourth wall. I love it. It's a great spot to get your fucking work in, but don't go to the restroom.
How do they only find places that have zero parking? Like, how are they like...
I hate that. Every place you go to, there's no parking no matter where you go.
Yeah.
Tao comedy. I love Tao comedy, but it's horrible to park there.
Yeah.
And it's like, it is a little bit too much of a hard room to work with. It's like, I say, it's a very, very liberal woke room.
Where at?
Tao comedy.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Tao
comedy.
Tao comedy. Yeah.
You can't say certain jokes versus like you can go to like a fourth wall or accidental and they'll take those jokes and they'll love it.
Yeah. See, I kind of, I'm always, I mean, I don't like toxic people and I do try to avoid them, but I try not to go for, I don't want to put all the work of censoring that on me or anyone else. Like, I feel like let people say whatever they want and let it fail.
Yeah.
That's how my approach to comedy. And I've seen that happen. I've seen people have good sets and then start talking about some shit that the crowd was like, we ain't having that.
Like,
and you could just see their energy meter dying. Like,
you could feel it dying.
Yeah. And that's on you, bro. Like, no, we're not going to tell you not to say that, but we're going to show you how much we don't like that you're saying that. And that's your choice to make as a comedian.
I've been in rooms where like when someone says something, you literally look at everyone else and you're like everyone's gonna say it like like did you hear that? Like the fuck?
And as far as venues go, like I try not to put too much on. Like I mean I know we just talked about how like there's ideal, factors that go into whether a room has good energy or not, you know, but like characteristics of the room, that's fine. But I try not to worry too much about the physical venue or the people that run it, etc. I mean, there are problematic people that do all that stuff, but I'm there for the audience.
Yeah.
I'm there to perform in front of a crowd. I want them to hear these jokes. I want them to laugh. I want to have that conversation with them. I want to engage with them. I don't give a shit about everything else. You know what I mean? Like this is the party. Me and those, I don't care if it's 4 people. Those 4 people, that's the party.
Yeah, we're gonna have time.
You know, the fact that, you know, whatever, the bartender sucks, or the fact that the owner's a dick, or
the
fact
host kind of sucks,
or we're not getting paid, or the bathroom's dirty. Like all those are secondary factors that, maybe like those come into play when like I want to produce a show. I might not produce a show there because I know my guests won't have
a good time,
the best experience, you know. Like I love, for instance, the Ice House. I think that's a great venue.
I haven't been since they reopened.
Yeah, it is beautiful there. It is like, it's just, they've got rooms with good energy. The California room is like one of the hottest rooms I've ever performed in or seen other people perform in too. And it's clean. The food's good. Service is good. Drinks are good. Like there's no parking. It's a little bit expensive when you stack everything, the ticket price and the drinks and the food and the parking, but it's not that bad. It's not like, it's a good night out.
It's probably gonna cost you about $50.
Yeah, $50 a person.
Yeah.
To like have a few drinks, have some snacks, get your car parked and have a great night of comedy. Like that, I don't think that's bad. I think that's...
Especially because that's the only thing out there in Pasadena.
Yeah.
There's nothing out there. Once you get, like... once you go like Pasadena area north of like where the what's it like the 5 freeway east of that, like there's nothing out there.
I was just at a brewery in San Dimas, which is without traffic. It's like 20 minutes.
Yeah, which
east.
one is it? Yeah, I know where it is. I grew up in Diamond Bar, so I know exactly where it is.
Burning Bridge.
Burning Bridge. I don't think I've ever been to that one.
Yeah,
I know there's one in Downey that they're starting up, the Downey Brewing Company. That one's a good one. I haven't been there yet.
I can't go wrong with breweries, man. I love performing in breweries. I don't know why.
They're fun. They're good because everyone there who goes to a brewery, they're like it's kind of like the working class family, like.
And it's different than a bar
because there's children there.
Yeah, but it's like bar gigs can be tough because people go to bars to kind of be miserable and be alone. You know what I mean? They go to they're like, I just want to stare at my drink or talk to my one buddy or do something, stupid to get away from whoever's at home. I don't know what your deal is, People go to breweries to sort of like, it's a little bit more, they're celebrating something.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It feels a little bit more like, I want to try this craft brew. I like these people. I want to hang out. It's a little bit more of a clubhouse than a brewery. So
that's a good point.
Even though, physically and with acoustically, that layouts aren't as perfect for stand-up comedy because you get a lot of warehouse ceilings,
tall ceilings, and the
echoes, and there's a forklift behind you and stuff. I always feel like I'm in on a Street Fighter, like there's a back, like I got beat up a car in mid set, for bonus points. But that could be fun, and sometimes it's weird, but I've always had good experiences in breweries. I did 15 minutes last night.
Nice.
At a brewery. It was fun. There were musical performers. There was one guy dabbled in magic.
So it was fun.
Yeah. And good brews with a barbecue stand out front. So
nice.
I mean,
that's always fun.
Yeah.
Especially when they got the truck up there.
I couldn't hate it. Yeah.
All right, Keith, you got to get going. I know you got somewhere you got to be in a bit. So before we get going, what shows do you have coming up? It's going to be released this coming up Monday. What are shows that are coming up next week and the following months that you have coming up?
Okay, well, first thing that I'll always pitch is my show, my baby, not you, Lucy, my other baby, my brainchild, which is Fudge Factor, which is the hoodie I'm wearing. So
let's get Lucy over here.
Yeah.
Fudge Factor.
Fudge Factor. You can find it at fudge.factor on Instagram. That is a show where comedians are forced to riff on topics from the audience.
Oh, that's fun.
So it's interactive.
Where's that at?
So I'm doing that at the Ice House. The next one is September 2nd. We're going to have a great show. We have Mary Lynn Ricegub booked on that. We have Drew Lynch booked on that. We may have some other celebrity guests, and I always have great performers who love to riff. And so it's okay. So the name came from you're fudging it, with your brain, and it's like Fear Factor because it's a little bit of a sort of competition game show type of thing,
that's
for
fun.
the comedian. Because a lot of people are scared to death of that, and I don't know if I'm great at it, but it's something I enjoy doing, riffing a little bit more. And it stemmed from me dealing with my soup brain, me dealing with the soup, and like, here's various topics floating around in my brain. I'm like, what if I just have someone else come up with a topic and say, tell me jokes about this shit, or make up jokes, or talk shit about it, or whatever. And so I did that, and it sort of took off, and the crowds love it. The comedians who do love doing this love the challenge.
Yeah. And
love how it is a little bit of like bottled chaos,
some stuff's gonna be good, some things are gonna be bad.
Yeah, and but you can be guaranteed it's gonna be weird. It's crazy. The last time I pulled an audience member up on stage to do 3 minutes of riffing, who's never done comedy before.
That wasn't fun.
Yeah, well, it was this older guy who was there with his husband, and they were sort of heckling us the whole night, but like kind of good heckle. It wasn't bad. It was like fun.
Okay.
It was wild. So they were the first to like volunteer to do it, and there is like two old white guys that look like they met at Home Depot. Like that was the vibe. like over lawnmowers. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like they got married over lawn accessories. But he came up and did a story about how he met Robin Williams once, and and then he started to talk about how he had a prostate surgery and started to unbuckle his pants to show us the scars. Yeah, it got out of hand. It got weird, and we're like, before we just ran out of time. You'll have to buckle back up, and
you're like, oh,
yeah. But it honestly was a crazy show. Very well received.
Nice. At the Ice House, right?
At the Ice House in the California Room. Really good crowd. Almost sold out. The next one's gonna sell out. So we'll be putting the ticket link up today, actually.
Oh, nice, perfect.
So yeah, make sure you get those tickets. That's my main show. That's my baby. I've got a lot of other shows that I do. I probably have about 8 shows booked this month. Besides that.
You're always a regular at the Fox and Hound at the Deadpan.
The Deadpan show. I recommend that for both audience and comedians. That is probably one of the best mics in town.
Yes.
You get 10 minutes for $5.
Free parking.
Free parking, and you get potentially put on a show.
Yeah.
They do shows. They do they kind of go every other mic to show, and then the shows are really fun. For the audiences, it's a cheap show. It's not too pricey.
$20, I think.
I think it's 15.
I think it's 15 pre-sale, 20 at the door.
Yeah, maybe that's it. But I still recommend it. It's you see a lot of great up and coming comedians. There's always a really good quality headliner.
Yes, and you're going to be on this Deadpan show this Sunday.
Yeah, well, I think it's the 20th is the next one.
20th, and you're on it?
And I'm on it. I usually do the DJ for Erin McBride, who's the producer of that show. And so I'm usually her sound guy, and I'll play everybody up with music and stuff like that. I don't know. I like DJing shows. I like playing with music. I DJ and I do mostly like retro music.
Damn, man, you won't be cooking and DJing at the party. Like cooking.
Every DJ is just a douchebag who likes music. No, I'm kidding. There's
not wrong.
There's a lot of other DJs who are really good quality DJs. You saw that meme about the girl who's like, what do DJs do anyway? Just turning knobs, and it's like, and DJs are like remixing that and stuff. DJing is an underrated art form. Really good quality DJs who can scratch, who can mix, who can beat juggle, who can actually produce tracks in the studio. Those people are true artists, And even the people who are just DJing, who are just, have really good taste in track selection. That's something too. That's somebody. What do you want? Not a DJ? Do you want no music? Do you want an algorithm to pick it, or do you want this guy who's got some taste, or girl, or whoever? I say, give some more love to DJs.
Okay, and then so you, Fudge Factor is gonna be performing at the Ice House, and then you're also performing Deadpan.
Yep.
And what else? Your Instagram, YouTube. You got anything else to plug?
I do Santa Barbara about once a month, sometimes twice a month. There's a good venue called the Red Piano.
Oh, I've heard of it.
That has a really good stage. They have the backstage set up in their yard, and it's a really good venue for comedy. I go up there probably at least once a month. That's fun to do. Trying to think, there's so many other odds and ends, but I'll be doing Hamburger Mary's on the 21st.
That's cool.
They have shows every Monday at Hamburger Mary's. Why am I saying hamburger weird? Do I say hamburger weird?
No.
I'm like hamburger. Hamburger. I feel like I'm like almost like there's some kind of weird secret about hamburgers in my you know what I mean, that I don't want to admit. Like there's some kind of kink.
Yeah.
Like extra cheese. I don't know. Hamburger Mary's though. I feel like I'm not saying it right.
You're saying it right. You're saying it.
But yeah, that's always a fun venue, So.
Okay, so and then your Instagram and YouTube, TikTok.
Yeah, my Instagram is at Keith D Graber. That D is for my middle initial. I guess there already was a Keith Graber. I'm like, how is this guy? I've never heard of him. How's he existing and stealing all the good handles? But that's my handle on everything. Is Keith at Keith D Graber. So that's my Instagram. That's my Threads. If you want your grandmom to follow me, was Twitter. Now it's X, which is stupid. I'm like, really, X? You just like Uber and every other person that's thought of X, you know? And he stole the logo from Excel.
Yeah.
Get out of here, you know, apartheid Elroy. Get out of here with your bullshit. That guy's a clown. But I was on Twitter. I don't think I do it anymore.
Yeah.
Facebook is the same. What else is there? What else is good? Keith D. Graber.
YouTube.
That's all the good. I have a YouTube. I don't really post a lot on there. It's not really my forum. I think you can see most of what I do on Instagram with Keith D. Graber and with Fudge.factor.
Fudge.factory.com. Be sure to check it out September 2nd.
September 2nd.
September 2nd at the Ice House. There will be a link in the description to get tickets. Thank you, Keith, for coming out.
Thank you.
Have a wonderful day.
It's been awesome.
Take care, y'all.
Yeah.